Professor, it was good that we had an overview of philosophy the last talk, and in my theme this year, since we talk about the broken world and how can we exist in this world, that is more my concern. And what is interesting is that when we say broken world, how come that we live in this world for a long time? But this way, can we make it more easier to see or darker or whatever? And so I thought about when do we feel the world is broken? I think that it started since after World War II. The broken world started that man feel that this world is no longer their home, and the world has been polluted since the 18th century during the so-called Industrial Revolution at that time, and even after the World War II, and we feel that everything is collapsing. I'm sure that thank you. Okay, now, so, and we all know that nature has been destroyed. Man no longer feel that the world is become the home anymore. Technological world and the industrial revolution, man have life in a routine, and it's no longer appreciate life as we should be. Man becomes part of the mechanical and being alienated to the rest of the world. I think one of the good examples that show about man and technology is Charlie Chaplin's The Modern World, Modern Time. I think that you remember the scene that he shaking up in that. He's a very smart guy, able to portray the man's position with the machine. I'm not talking about only the machine then, we're talking about the modern time. The people always bend their head looking at something in front of them, the mobile phone, except that professor, and this professor has no mobile phone, which is exceptional. So I thought about one of the ideas in the 19th century, which is the essentialism. And because essentialist people very much concerned about man's existence in the world. I think that any of you never heard of essentialism around here? Okay, I'm sure that you must like them. And after why do the essentialists feel the way they did? If you look at their background, we can see that the material and spiritual destruction in Europe is so great. After the killing and everything, man is thrown into the world. They can sense the negative aspect of existence. Man then feel the pain, frustration, sickness, and death. And I will show you later on, many books was written, and it's named behind that, this kind of feeling. And also the plague, since 1918 to 1919 in Europe, 1/3 of the population died, and many people feel so much sadness about that today. Industrial Revolution, man becomes part of the machine, the center of the nation, and the inauthenticity of being. Man is separated from nature, and man is alone and lost in the world of masses and machine. How can man make up of himself? So within that situation, how do you know? What can we do with this kind of life? Start. He wrote an article on humanism. Existentialism is a humanism. He said, we are choosing to be what we are and never able not to choose. We are what we make out of ourselves. So within our inability to change anything, but at least we have something to do with that is with ourselves. So the question is how to exist. So essentialism mainly think that what we need to do is to choose. choosing to be what we are at all times free to create and recreate the meaning of our world in terms of a project of possibilities and reaching into the future. Freedom of choosing and responsibility. That is the answer that the essentialists give to the rest of the world, and at least to themselves, how to exist. Essentialists are those who are concerned of man's existence in this world. Man needs to find the meaning of life under influence of technology, dread, fear, and anxiety. And I don't think that we are far from what the essentialists faced at that time. If we look at essentialism, Professor mentioned about several kinds of ideas of thinking. And essentialists, they are full of emotions. Some people say about emotion. They are writers, they are literature people. They write in terms of the feeling towards the world. Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, sickness and death, fear and trembling, concept of anxiety. These are the books that he wrote, and you can feel that what he feels about the world. Sartre said nausea, being a nothingness, no exist. Essentialist is a humanism. No, these people, they feel everything around them. Albert Camus, who won the Nobel Prize in Sartre, the outsider, the myth of Sisyphus, the plague, the fall, which we will talk about this show later on. But for the moment, we think of the being in this life is a matter of choice. And they try to talk about bad faith and good faith. Bad faith means inauthenticity and a form of flight from freedom and responsibility. Whereas good faith means choosing to be what we are, freedom of choosing. So, at least we have freedom to do something, and that is the freedom of choosing. Being in a world with freedom and responsibilities. I think with this kind of definition, if we come into consideration, we can answer many questions on ethics as well. In short, man has to live this life by choosing to be what himself, and live the life in responsibility of his own action. Man's life is full of dilemma that he has to make decisions in all things. That's why bioethics become the problem, because we have to make decisions. In the 20th century, 21st century, the broken world, the digital age, the more broken world than the 19th to the 20th century, man needs to choose to maintain his well-being. If one wants to survive, peace of mind is important. Digital age is a point of no returning back to the pure nature. Man is in another realm of existence, the technological being, dictated by medias and virtual reality. So this is the world we are living in, not too far from Huxley, Brave New World, that he wrote 80 years ago. And this means that the imagination of Huxley is so true, especially when we talk about soma, that when you feel depressed, you give people soma, just like any medicine that you have right now. Some pharmaceutical aspects wrote about this. So, peace of mind and introspection. In this digital world, the world of media and filled with confusion, dread, anxiety, and loss of the meaningless and in the observed world. Kierkegaard, the first essentialist thinker, said that each individual is responsible for his own meaning of life and living it passionately and sincerely and trust authentically. So it means that one has to be oneself, how to find this meaning in this world. I think the way we are right here is one of the expression of our own true meaning. To find the meaning of life, one has to maintain peace of mind. Is to go back into oneself, be at present moment. Then one is able to realize the peace within oneself. able to overcome the negative side of existence that the essentialists had faced, the suffering of pain, frustration, stress, fearful side of life and death. In other words, how to overcome the suffering of man in this century. Well, to talk about a little bit about the new discovery on the neuroplasticity of our brain and mindfulness. That is, recently they found out that the brain, the neuroplasticity of the brain is always in the process of change. It depends on, especially the frontal lobe of the brain. So this frontal lobe can always change for the better. It's not static. Depends on the way how do we think. The movement, the memory, the character, the feelings, emotion, and all kinds of solving problems. So it means that through mindfulness, this part of the brain change and become more active and highly interconnected. So you don't have any more, I think people who are full of action and active cannot become brain dead or whatever you have. In other words, that the problem of the, what do you call that kind of brain that you don't function. Vegetative state or whatever. Man's part of brain has changed through mindfulness. Being optimistic, learning something new every day, lead him to function better, and the other part of the brain, the hippocampus, how the memory, the facts, the events, the short-term memories, the hippocampus can increase its density and size after meditation. So in other words, it means that one can meditate in order to develop the better brain, the better side of man. The corpus callosum, also another part of the brain that connects with the left and right side of the brain, becomes stronger, bigger, and lead to more connection between the brain. So the experiments show that the fMRI or functional magnetic resonance image, this is in the real time, that have the evidence show that the brain had changed. The amygdala and mindful. The amygdala is the brain, the part that show that emotion, the response with the fear, anxiety, and aggression. The amygdala becomes smaller with mindfulness. So you don't have that much anymore of fearful, more suffering of man. The smaller side of amygdala means a lot of human beings that decide of groundness and overcome the suffering part of man. In other words, you can choose how to live better if you want to have a better life. So existentialism, mindfulness in the 21st century. Essentialism stress the freedom of man, and this freedom means freedom of choosing. Man needs to choose to survive well. In the 21st century, man will, with the digital technology, they cannot be denied, but how to manage with one's life, one's existence, and able to maintain the sanity. Stress, fear, anxiety, dread, and all kinds of suffering can be managed through meditation and being mindful, or be at present moment at all times. So this is one of the answers to the meaning of life. So man's choice of meaning of life means subjectivity of the self and the outer world. We are not the victim of the surrounding, like Sisyphus that Gamu wrote. If you don't know the story of Sisyphus, Sisyphus is one of the god who has been to be a man and had to roll the stone up to the mount and redo it again and again. And Sisyphus has no choice. This is what he condemned to do. But he had the choice of smiling. Gamu said, you just think that Sisyphus is smiling because he had to win over the god. The god cannot make him suffer any. So it depends on us how to able to manage our life, not to be the victim of the surrounding. So we can overcome our unhappiness through our own thinking, our own outlook towards life, or our own attitudes towards life. we can always make choice. The choice we make is what we live. Very short compared to the last one. Anyway, I give you some kind of ideas for you to think about and what can we manage about our life within this kind of technology change.
Thank you. Okay, so more time for questions. Please, yes?
Yes.
Please, can you stand up when you ask a question? It's going to be easier.
In some cases,
Yes.
some Muslims, they are existentialists. They become brain in their brain. They become, say, what they want to kill others. They want to live only their lives. They want to only subject to their own feelings, and they don't feel subjected to other people's feelings. This is there in many of the countries, but not in India. Within India, it is not such, because most of them have been sent to Pakistan, most of them have been sent to Bangladesh. They are different, but those who are in India, they are all the same in custom, culture. But there are some people who are existentialists.
Well, existentialist in this sense is not according to science, because if you are an existentialist, you are a humanist. The humanism is mean that you have to spread your love to all others and with responsibilities. In so every action of you, you have to be counting as respond to yourself and others at the same time, not to just go out and kill anybody. Yeah. So misinterpretation as an essentialist. Yes.
I'm mentioning it as an existentialism,
right,
because I don't want to say our Prime Minister has brought up what you call Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. He has made it 3. You must have come to
That
know
is
about that.
that is
And Article 370, he has made changes in Article 370 because he is a Hindu and he doesn't like Muslims, he doesn't like Christians. So, but he cannot do anything because the Constitution of India is different. But his mentality, that is the reason I don't want to say mentality.
I see.
And that's the reason why I said existentialism.
I see.
Some people's mentality is like that. They would like to find fault with others when there is no fault with others. But they want to see that they must find fault with others, even if there is nothing. But they would like to do something against them. That is their mentality. That is the reason why we have to talk about the mentality. That's right. That's right.
Any more questions, please? Yes, please.
We were talking on mindfulness and brain.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear more about your thoughts about the necessity to understand the brain while exercising mental activities aiming at relaxation and different frameworks.
Am I right to understand your question? That you want to understand that what kind of activities in order to develop the brain?
Why is it important for you, or in what sense it is important to understand the function of the brain while focusing on mental activities which you described?
Well, it's both mental and physical. It's not because when you sit, you just can't have a meditation without sitting or walking. So it has to come together, walking and sitting. Yeah, right.
Right?
So the body and the mind together. It's not only the mind. So when you sit and meditate, you know the position of sitting. So when you walk, you know the position of walking. So the body and the mind have to come together. Am I answering your question?
With that I fully agree. But at first you went into the specificities of what happens in the brain.
Yeah, because I want to show that when you meditate, it affects on the brain. And it affects upon your ideas of suffering, regret, and all kinds of fearful. So with this kind of meditation, you can make it smaller and you can face all the problems better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making it clear. Any more, Chris?
I became interested in neuroplasticity recently as a scientific concept. I don't understand, I'm a philosopher, I don't understand the science so well. One thing I think is interesting is in terms of dialogue, it's been noticed that when people engage in dialogue with each other, would have fixed opinions about things. And if you give them evidence that contradicts their opinion, they refuse to change their mind. And then some neuroscientists think that there's actually physical things going on in the brain. Your brain is set in a certain way. When we learn a language, we learn how to speak a language with no accent. And if we learn a second language, when I learn Japanese, when I'm 20 years old, I have an accent, right? So some things we can't change because of the brain structure itself, right? But that idea of neuroplasticity seems to me, but this is just, I'm not an expert, but it just seems to me that, if we're going to change our opinions about things, it somehow involves changing brain structures. And are there, different people with different types of brain structures that make it easier for them to, respond to new ideas? And other people who are just kind of like, this is the way my brain is structured, I can't change it.
No, we are assuming something different. We have to assume that we all have the brain. And the brain, all of us function almost the same. It's only the ideas that make a difference that we mentioned before. We think differently. But after you do the meditation, the brain, the software, when with the same kind of input you put in, it always comes out the same. When you talk about maybe we can talk about dialogue between one another, with the dialogue, under a certain kind of circumstance, the Socrates believe that if man love himself, well, no one can exist without loving oneself. But how to love oneself? It means that you have to have the self-knowledge. Having the self-knowledge, in a way, it means that you got to realize something about yourself. And through that, the dialogue can lead you to understand that kind of coming to reach to another kind of conclusion through giving answer and answering, the dialogue. Without the dialogue, we cannot reach to that point. So that's why we have to come and communicate to one another. But in a way, when you talk about modern constructive, whatever you say, this is, I like it because we talk about deconstruction. Now you're thinking about construction. This is, I think it's very hopeful for this kind of philosophers in the 21st century. Because when you deconstruct, you don't go anywhere. But when you construct something, you go to some kind of conclusion. And so, with the dialogue and with the same kind of understanding and with meditation, so it depends on how you understand what meditation is. To fix your mind at one pointedness at something, like breathing, the rising and falling of the stomach, and walking, whatever. You being aware of that. Being aware of that, your brain, the neuroplasticity of it will develop. It become thicker, become expand. I give you an example. Two people fall. One fell and one died. But the other one fell, he or she can survive because the thickness of the brain doesn't ruin the brain. It can help in curing for the better. So it's all, this is a life that we live, but how can we live it better? When we talk about meditation, it's like lights in the room. It's scattered. But when you meditate, use kind of concentration the light, just like the laser. The laser has a lot of power in cutting many things, in doing all sorts of things. So with the laser, the mind can solve any problem. Whatever comes in, you can able to see it through. Just like your sharp mind, you can answer the question and everything because you have the concentration in order to understand other things. Yeah. I don't know if you can answer the question. Any question, Professor Ayo?
Regarding meditation, there are quite different details meditation could be a science, meditation could be inspired, meditation could be some details. Word will become like when we writing a paper, idea will be coming by meditation as well. So that kind of your study could be more described. Will be very resourceful since you have been doing like this study for readers. Since you have many sources for students, how you can use this theory for applying to the basic theory and practical reasons could be very resourceful, I guess. This is my kind of feeling.
Thank you.
That,
Thank you.
what you have been presenting.
Thank you. That is a statement, I believe. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other comments from the room? Osama, can you speak? Osama, can you speak? Danielle, you cannot speak, you sit in bed.
Yeah, Daryl, thanks.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to share the thought which I sent as a comment. And I mean, what Professor Chutatip was saying was right on, and I just wanted to sort of compliment that by saying that meditation now has become so popular in the world that I learned last week that several schools in the UK have actually decided to introduce meditation in their curriculum for children as early as 7-year-old children because of its proven impact on reducing depression among children and all sorts of emotional issues that children are beginning to have now instead of Prozac, because kids now are being prescribed Prozac, like it's just automatic and it's really disturbing. So this is the antidote, and this is the comment I wanted to share. And it would be nice to see it actually in other countries around the world. I don't know if the United States is doing that or Japan, but I think this is timely. Meditation is definitely here to stay, and it's something that we should put more effort and more research to see exactly how it alters the consciousness of the person, especially in modern settings, technology, use, all of these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Osama. The sentence I forgot to say is that within the broken world, we can mend ourselves for the better. We don't have to be broken like the world. Otherwise, we cannot do anything about it. That's why I think there are really everybody here. So to make it the world a little bit better in some ways.
Thank you. And in Manuel's comment, your definition of meditation is similar to a Kabbalistic approach. The difference may be the guidance by awareness and not by the original. Any other comments or questions, anyone?
Just may I make a comment, or I don't know, maybe a question too, but what I think is really interesting, when I was a student, I grew up with, Sartre and Camus and Kierkegaard.
Yeah,
I mean, that was really popular in the 1960s or so when I was a student. And my journey was, I thought that was so depressing.
Right.
And that's why I got interested in Asian thought. And as a student then, I started to study Indian philosophy, then Buddhist philosophy, and finally, Japanese philosophy, because I thought that was a solution to all of, the depression that I found in the existentialists.
One of my friends made a thesis on essentialism, and she's so involved in it, and she never finished it.
Yeah.
Because it's so depressing.
But what I think is interesting is, you coming from a Buddhist culture, from a culture where existentialism was popular, then becoming attracted to, Asian cultures, and for you, kind of going in the opposite direction.
Well,
do we meet someplace?
Bringing essentialism here in order to overcome the dreadful and suffering in life through meditation. Because according to science, we have the right to choose, the freedom of choosing. Otherwise, we have no nothing. Just like Sisyphus, you know, the repeating the routine of the life, you have to overcome it by a matter of attitudes and thinking to be able to win the God by smiling and able to sarcastic smiling. Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Chutatip. As I shared at the beginning of the meeting, Bioethics in the Broken World, we're talking about some of the secular violence. So followers of one religion attacking another religion. And these people may actually come from their place of worship, pray, meditate, and then go out and commit acts of secular violence against people of another religion. For example, some of the terrorists say their prayers and write their manifesto for the glory of God, or jihad, or the crusades of Christians against Muslims. These were the crusades were conducted in the name of God. The Buddhist cleansing of Rohingya in Myanmar in the name of God. So all around the world. So that's why tomorrow we'll have some papers on religious tolerance. So are there forms of meditation which lead to violence? And are there forms of meditation which lead to peace? And is there a way that we can educate people in ways of meditation and prayer to only lead to peace and coexistence? And do we need to write some new mantras or some new prayers or some new oaths in the church or mosque to say, we, the peoples of the world, will not commit terrorism, we will not commit... Because often it says, we believe the followers of our faith are blessed and the chosen people of God. And, you know, so what do you suggest?
Yeah.
Have people tried to develop an alternative meditation or...
At the moment, what we can do now is to spread love, as Dario tried to tell, okay? Because we cannot change those mind anymore. But for the youngster, that we still have hope, they have to have a new kind of education. As we said, many people ask about how to educate the youngster, how to give love to others, how to have no race, no religion. Let John Lennon talk about imagine, you know. There's no nothing, but only how to give peace and love to everybody. I think that's the answer, and to respect others. But for those mind who has been, as I know that Dario feels so much about Christchurch, and I know that it's your hometown and it's a lovely city, which I love also, and it happened all everywhere in the world. It's not only in Christchurch. People taking advantage of many others. So we have to go back to a young age and to change. In Thailand, for example, what we need to do is to educate the politicians, let them to meditate first, so that they will not become so greedy, no nonsense in talking in the parliament or whatever, you know. And this is the starting point. Very difficult to have a good starting point. It's almost too late. So what we can do now is a small group like this, starting to learn how to love one another, no matter what. I don't know if I answered your question, but it's so difficult. If I can answer your question, I can answer everything. So, Dario.
Thank you. You can.
I have
Yes, Paramita,
short
please.
statement.
Yeah.
Just a statement. I really agree with, we should take care of the youngster to prepare them for the next generation. But what I've been thinking is like, they have their own parents, and you know that children need parents' consent to do anything. So my thought is, it's a challenge to change the mindset of the parents too. I think that's it.
Yes, parents' education role is really critical.
Yes, yes. Very, very critical.
Anybody else would like to make a comment or share a comment?
Yes.
Yes, Christmas?
Yeah, I'm a teacher in a village in my Nepal. Then I used to meditation for my. I use that now. I'm using in my classroom.
Good.
Every day I start 2 minutes or 3 minutes meditation first for students. Then they are easily motivated for learning.
Exactly.
So I submit. Thank you.
Right. In France, I went to France and they have also, like I mentioned before, the philosophical practice.
Yeah.
This is for adults who are interested all over the world, come and talk to one another. And one of the people bring the ideas of education to the children in France. And it turned out that the naughty children turned out to be better than before. So sit still and able to learn more.
Yes, in fact, we use bioethics education in Mexico for teenagers and drug addicts to get them back to studying. It's good, yeah. Any other comments, anyone? Okay, thank you very much.